This is Don't Panic, episode number 17, recorded October 7th, 2013, on the anonymous internet, Chrome apps, and Comments Plus. Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of Don't Panic, your number one source for Breaking Bad spoilers. Can you believe Walter White was dead the whole time in a snow globe in a dream?
Damn it, Sean.
I see now. Why bother watching them when you can watch us? That's right. Don't Panic, the ultimate podcast on gadgets, the internet, and you. I'm Sean Jennings, being joined, as always, by the most fantastic human beings in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start off with Colby Rabideau. Colby, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited to be back for another week.
It's going to be, we start on Monday so we can make the rest of your week great, and a great way to do that is with Dan Miller. Dan, how's it going?
Howdy. Doing great. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing well. Last week I joked we were all sick and we had tea. So this week I'm
Were we all sick? I was sick.
I was getting over a cold, so I had coffee. So
I was just really tired.
And I'll give a little tease for the rest of the episode. My pick this week involves beer, so you'll want to stay tuned for that.
Ooh, cool. Well,
Ooh,
I didn't
is
know
tasty.
it was a beer episode. I feel a little left out. I'm mildly annoyed.
It's early on the West Coast, Colby. You got plenty of night left.
I guess that's fair.
All right. Well, let me just begin by thanking all of our live watchers and those watching the recorded version. As always, we do this Monday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific at don'tpanic.io. There you can also find past recorded versions of our episodes in audio and video. You can also follow along with all the great Don't Panic goodness at our Facebook page, facebook.com/don'tpanicshow. And definitely come watch us live Monday nights because you can interact with us in the chat room, be part of the show. We absolutely love it. And this week we have stories to discuss as usual. And we are going to start with, I don't know. Do you guys have any stories you want to specifically start with, or should I just pick one?
I think the Silk Road one leads to a lot of discussion.
I knew, Dan, you were going to go right for this one. I said. So let's break down this story. This is kind of a wacky, weird, crazy story. Very Julian Assange, McAfee guy, kind of just. It's one of those types of stories that you just don't believe when you read it. This is from CNN.com. FBI shuts down online drug market Silk Road. Now, some people have heard of Silk Road. If you're a legitimate, upstanding citizen, you're probably not that familiar with it. So what is Silk Road? Well, Silk Road is a web page that allows people to buy illegal things, mostly drugs, but you can also buy guns, counterfeit goods, services like assassinations for hire.
It's not really a web page, though.
No, well, that's what's interesting. So this is maybe the most anonymous thing I've ever heard of, because it is operated on the anonymous network Tor, making it virtually untraceable, although Dan can probably speak better to the goodness of that. And the only money accepted there is Bitcoin, the other crazy anonymous currency. So because of that, and the fact that they take their illegal products, vacuum seal it, and send it through the U.S. mail without anyone knowing any the wiser. Silk Road, the FBI said the site generated revenue over the past 2.5 years valued at $1.3 billion with a B. Now, of course, that's all in Bitcoins, which is,
A billion Bitcoins?
A currency.
No. It's not a billion Bitcoins. It's $1 billion US dollars, right? A billion Bitcoins is
No.
100 times that US dollars.
No, you're right. No, it is $1.3 billion or about 9.5 million Bitcoins.
They could have paid off the US debt with...
Hey, 1.3 is still a lot.
1.3 billion Bitcoins.
That's the solution to the debt crisis, guys. Just sell heroin online.
Bitcoins.
This adds credence to that legalization argument of if only we could tax this stuff.
Yeah. So Silk Road was just such a great place to hang out, and sadly the FBI came in and busted the party. What a bunch of party poopers. They came in and arrested a man they believe to be leading it. His estimated worth is about $85 million, and he is currently under arrest, and Silk Road is, as of now, shut down. I don't even know where to start on this one, so I'm going to send it to Dan. Dan?
I think people were like, oh man, this guy was such a noob, right? You heard all these people saying that, like, can't believe he was so stupid to use his name indirectly connected with an old alias that was itself indirectly connected to his current alias like 8 years ago. Like, that wasn't being stupid. That was a property of the internet, you know? Nothing goes away, and if you look hard enough, you can find anything from any time. And also, talking about Tor being truly anonymous, I can't imagine what would prevent someone from hosting their own Tor node and then just collecting all the information. I don't know anything about Tor, though. Is it entirely encrypted end to end?
I don't entirely understand, but like, I know like Tor's been under quite a bit of scrutiny lately since the NSA stuff. So
yeah,
like, I feel like I've seen at least one article like, oh no, it doesn't actually work that well, but I can't actually speak to why that's the case.
So it says the original data, including its destination, are encrypted and re-encrypted multiple times. But this guy revealed that he had intercepted username and passwords by operating and monitoring Tor exit nodes, as Tor does not and by design cannot encrypt the traffic between an exit node and the target server. So if you run one of these jump-off points where you jump off of Tor from Tor to the web page you're going to, say if you're using Tor as like the get around the Chinese firewall method, then if someone was monitoring that node, then they could figure out who you were. I think if you're running a website on a Tor node and accessing it from Tor, then you're pretty good.
Right. That makes sense.
Assuming, I guess, not really, because you still have to connect to an exit node, which is the node that you're entering through, right?
In theory. Well, what if like...
Because you can't have a direct connection to Tor. You can't just plug in your router to the Tor network. You have to go over some internet.
Your machine is like a
exit node?
A node, or just a node on the Tor network, right? Like, it seems like... this may be a naive understanding of it, but it seems like an exit node would be where you jump out. Like, your machine is on the network.
Oh, okay.
It's where you jump out to go to, say, like... Google or something that is not that is not an exit node. I don't know if have you ever played around with Tor?
I think I tried to once.
It's pretty fun because like you really don't know like where your exit node is going to come out. So sometimes like you'll go to Google and you'll get like Google Germany, or, like Google France, because your IP is like. The IP that Google is seeing is in Europe.
That's awesome. We should use that at work so we get the full experience of all the different languages on the site.
Yeah. I like it.
Okay, here's this isn't directly related because I don't understand any of this. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Okay.
Bitcoin is weird. Here's why. Okay. I get that there's this crypto program that generates bitcoins and it's a limited currency and blah, blah, blah and all this stuff, and that gives it value. I understand that part. And that's fine. The problem I have is taking bitcoins and converting it to an actual spendable mainstream currency. Because it seems like every day I read another service that does this is shutting down, is requiring ID. There's almost no way to anonymously take all this Bitcoin money and translate it into real-world spendable dollars.
That's a property of spendable dollars.
But I understand that.
Bitcoins.
And I realize you don't have to do that. But then I think, we say this guy's worth $85 million, but that's all in Bitcoins. But you can't buy a house with that. You can't...
But you can buy $85 million worth of heroin with that and then sell that on the street with no connection.
I feel like the classic case of money laundering. Or, I mean, just because I feel like the anonymous part of Bitcoins is that, or rather, it's not that you can turn them into real dollars anonymously. It's that there's no way to know where they came from.
There's no central authority.
Right. So there's no like, it's not like a credit card where like there's a record of your credit card transaction. It's just like these I don't know, whatever the heck they are.
It's
So-
just, how would you use this other than for illegal purposes? Like, why do we need
You
Bitcoin
would
other
use
than
it
so
like
people
regular
can sell
money.
drugs? But why?
Okay. Imagine.
Why do you do anything online, Sean? Because you can.
Imagine a world in which, say you live in Zimbabwe, and all of a sudden you have a $100 trillion banknote. You don't want to deal with that shit. You just use Bitcoins. It's hard to get US dollars in there. You don't want to go mining silver. You don't want to go carrying silver around. It's dangerous. Use Bitcoins. You don't have to worry about your central government printing trillions of dollars a year just to do something with.
Or collapsing.
I mean, I
And
guess
then
it's,
subsequently
or
collapsing
shutting
twice.
down.
Yeah. That too.
I mean, I guess it's good in theory, but it's just kind of those, like, in the real world, I feel like it doesn't. I can't wrap my mind around
The
this.
real world in these countries is that everyone has a mobile phone and no one has a computer, and they have it with them all the time, which is also interesting. Like, I feel like the reality of these mobile wallets is a lot closer in those countries where their only computer they've ever known is their phone than it is in the United States, where we like, oh, HTTPS and bankofamerica.com, I need these things to be safe, sort of thing. That's a whole other topic, I guess, but
It is.
I could see it being really subversive.
That's exactly what they're doing.
But doesn't it feel like a good idea? Doesn't it feel like we should outsource the economy to computers?
No! Computers trade. I read an article the other day about how they think they're going to investigate a trader because they found out his trade went through something like, it wasn't even half a millisecond. It was even less than that, faster than all the other guys. And that's considered, they think there was some kind of insider trading in like less than half a millisecond.
Well,
Because these things happen so quickly when computers do them.
Yeah, well, they do. They take all these crazy precautions in the like data centers for the machines that do the electronic trading, right? Like they want to be able to make trades as fast as physically possible, right? So the fastest you can be is being like as close to the stock exchange as possible. So they're like I don't know if they're in the stock exchange, but they're like the building next to the stock exchange, and there are these rooms full of servers, and they go so far as to give every single server in the room has the exact same length of cable of fiber, so they're all like none of them have like shorter lengths of fiber and get even fractions of a millisecond or less latency because of it.
I mean, you hear those stories about how the software monitors social media, and if a false tweet goes out, all of a sudden the stock market drops in a second and then rebounds right back. I mean, it's crazy. And now we're saying we want our currency to be like this? I mean, just think about this idea of a non-centralized, non-controlled, virtual-only currency. Like, it kind of sounds like the UN to me, like a global body that isn't real, and I don't understand why we need it, and I feel like it doesn't do anything, but I guess it does. Maybe that's just
It doesn't
me.
do anything, whereas countries with their economies do all sorts of crazy stuff, like shut them off or inflate the currency. You can't turn bitcoins off, and you can't make any more of them.
Well, here's a good question. Do you think this whole reputation Bitcoin is growing, which I don't think anyone is going to argue about, the sort of it's used for just illegal purposes. You think that's really going to hurt this cause?
Hurt what cause? Oh, no.
The mainstreaming of Bitcoin.
I don't think we're ever going to use it in the U.S. anytime soon. I think it's going to, if like I said, if Libya collapses and all their currency's gone, it would be a great thing to turn to, rather than carrying valuable things around and trading crap.
But a country like Libya, do they have the tech infrastructure to handle that?
Maybe not, but like most of Africa and the Middle East do now. Like, they only have cell phones. They don't have computers.
I think it could be interesting. I just, I know who. I was talking with a bunch of what we call average consumers, or people who aren't as tech savvy as us, and they always like to ask, oh, have you heard about this? And obviously we have. And they were like, what's this Bitcoin thing I hear about on the news? People are making a lot of money and they're buying drugs with it. Like that's the mainstream reputation of this concept.
Yeah, but making a lot of money with it part is a huge draw. Didn't they add it to like the Forbes.com ticker or something recently?
Yeah, it's a legitimate thing people track.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the shutdown of Silk Road, getting back to that, actually caused the price to dip about, I think they said 10 or 20%.
And then it went up higher than it was before because everyone bought into it.
Yeah. So
it's really interesting though. Currencies are the way currencies work on a global scale is really fascinating because countries like China and us, we do all these crazy things to, mess with each other. Specifically China, they, buy U.S. debt to devalue the U.S. dollar or something. Or it's either that or it's the opposite. They, buy up U.S. debt to inflate the dollar and, keep their, whatever China's thing is, more stable. It's just crazy stuff like that. And so if you have something like Bitcoin where in theory right now it's outside of that national, international political BS zone. So, in theory it might be a little more stable than or it stable against different conditions.
I think it's just amazing that, at least for a while, they were able to. This was an anonymous website that was able to conduct anonymous transactions for anonymous people using an anonymous currency, but real products. To me, that is a fascinating combination of factors.
Yeah. And chances are, most people who use that are probably pretty safe because as long as they didn't associate their nickname on there with any chain of themselves, and even then they'd have to go through just as much effort as they did to track down that guy to track down all those people. You're probably pretty safe because there's no personally identifiable information in their database. There's just the Bitcoin ID. They're not even. Why do they care? They probably don't store any of that.
Yeah, and
Bitcoin stores it all for you.
And everything I read on Silk Road, apparently no one's been, outside of this main guy who they believe ran the site, no one's been actually arrested for solely buying and selling illegal substances through the website. So,
yeah.
I guess it must work. So it's, illegal things are bad, but the technology you use to do them, that's kind of cool.
It is pretty impressive that they had such a good run.
Oh yeah, $1.3 billion.
How long was it up for? Does it say there?
2.5 years.
Nice.
That's good money.
That's pretty solid.
And
with all the talk of the NSA watching everything, and it's Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, good for them, just for, to say they did. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy's probably going to jail forever now, right?
Oh yeah.
A while, at least.
Yeah, because they arrested him for a number of things, but also apparently he tried through the website to pay to have a hit taken out on somebody, among many other crimes. So he will be rotting in a prison. The site had nearly 1 million registered users.
Wow.
That is amazing. All right. Well, let's go from talking illegal drugs to talking about assholes on YouTube. Same thing, right? So this was an announcement from a week or two ago, but it's something that's rolling out, and it's the update to the YouTube commenting system, which hasn't radically changed since the website came out. There have been tweaks, but for the most part, it's been a relatively anonymous way to post, as we all know, very not nice and unsavory things on YouTube. Well, Google has finally taken the initiative to heart and said, why don't we do something about that? And now they did so. In the amazing world of Google Synergy, Google Plus will now be the main way to comment on YouTube. It will connect to your Google Plus profile. And there's a thing I wanted to read here. The advantages to doing that are, obviously, your name is associated with it. The comments are actually algorithmically filtered, so the ones that are from the video's creators, popular personality, engaged discussions, people in your circles will all filter to the top, so the really crappy ones will filter to the bottom. You can post publicly or privately. So you can post publicly so everyone sees it, or you can post a comment that when someone in your Google Plus circle visits that YouTube page, they will see your comment, but the general public will not.
That's interesting.
There are also better ways, apparently, to moderate comments for owners of the video. You can review comments before they're actually posted. There's a bit of a lag delay. You can block certain words, or you can allow, just say, auto-approve comments from certain individual users who you can trust. Hypothetically, allowing people with thousands of comments to spend less time going through them. This is going to be rolled out through the fall and into the winter across the site. I'm excited for this. Colby, are you excited for better YouTube comments?
I mean, I didn't typically use YouTube at all, except to watch a movie once in a while. I was not.
Are you Amish?
No, I mean, I used YouTube, but I didn't read the comments. I didn't have friends on YouTube, but yeah, no, I mean it seems like a good idea. It also seems like a decent idea for them to drive traffic like Google Plus usage.
Yeah.
Whatever good intentions they may have aside, I feel like that's a much bigger deal for them than actually having nice comments on YouTube.
I will say that I know a couple people who are really into YouTube, and there's this whole other YouTube that most people don't even know about that's pretty core to it, that involves all the subscribing and blogging, and it's basically a social network with videos to them. And it really is. You can do all the same stuff. You have profiles, all of these things. And up until now, you didn't have to associate your YouTube account with a Google Plus account, right?
Mm-hmm, it was optional.
So people have
and I believe it's still optional, just not for commenting. If you want to comment, you have to connect.
Interesting. Okay. But even then, I can imagine... Because there's something to be said for not just putting your name on everything, Well, I yearn for the internet of 2004. In some ways.
I mean, they're it's different things. I agree. There are some instances when it's good to not have to be you. In some instances, when it's better to say, "Hey, this is me,"
Yeah.
know that like the people you're talking to are the people they say they are.
Yeah.
Comments have been under a lot of flack lately. I know Popular Science caused a bit of a splash. I think it was last week when they shut off comments on their website entirely because they claimed it wasn't actually adding anything to the conversation. And I think, obviously, that's kind of an extreme move, and a lot of people got upset. But I certainly think real names are a great way to enhance the quality of the comments and posts, not just on YouTube.
I feel like comments rarely add anything to any website. Like, what was the last website you went to? I was like, oh, thank goodness for this comment section.
My local newspaper back home. Because people write really funny things about local news.
Okay.
Outside of that, no, I absolutely agree with you, and I never comment on it.
because, yeah.
But I
yes.
think it's more for, like you said, Dan, the people who spend a lot of time on YouTube and know other YouTubers, and especially because Google is really pushing these high-quality, high-production value channels. It's about having the conversation, and Google doesn't want it happening on Twitter, and they don't want it happening on Facebook. They want it happening on Google Plus and through YouTube comments, and I think this is a really important step.
Right, that's what I mean. I guess that's what I was trying to say. Like, there is this this social interaction is actually going on YouTube, and it may or may not be going on Google Plus, and they want it to be on Google Plus. Because why wouldn't they?
It makes sense. You bought it, you use it, right? So might as well get their money's worth out of Google Plus. All right, so look for that to come this fall. No more posting crazy anonymous stuff. Let's move on to Chrome. Chrome, actually, in the last 3 weeks, Chrome has had a lot of big changes and updates. So I'm going to talk about the older one first. This was from late September, and this was Chrome apps. So for a long time, Chrome has had apps, which were kind of like fancier extensions. They had extensions, and then they had apps, and apps were more full-featured extensions. Well, Apple. I've had too much of this beer. That's so Google's really gone out with Chrome apps, making a very visual change to Chrome. A lot of people were, I know I was a little bit surprised and then fascinated. So the biggest thing you're going to notice is the new start screen, which is the old Google search page, but you'll notice you no longer have, if I was a big user of the big icons for the apps, you no longer have those. You can access Google services from the front page, but there's actually a different place entirely to access your apps. 2 ways to do that. And you guys will have to let me know how this works on Mac, because I've only done it on Windows. But in Chrome, in your bookmarks bar, there is an apps button that brings up a separate tray of apps. There is also an app, I guess, desktop launcher that will set up and launch. Let me share my screen. I'm so not prepared.
It's Google Hangouts thing, man.
It's so complicated.
It's tough. It's tough.
So I'll just keep talking while I'm trying to figure this out. The advantages to this new app interface, as described by Google, and there's an excellent post on the Chrome blog that I recommend. So there you go. Now you can see my screen. That's Facebook. But there's this new apps button, and it brings up your apps tray, which looks like your old apps tray, but there's just in a different place. But most of the ones you're looking at here on my screen are actually the old version. The advantage to the new versions...
There are so many pictures of Sean's face.
Are where?
Sean, we're still getting that half of your screen. It's between half and half. I blame Windows.
No, I blame VidBlaster. But so here's what is new about the new Chrome apps. All right, work offline, which apparently you couldn't do on the old ones. no tabs, buttons, or text boxes. And actually, what I'm going to just try it and pray it works. I'm going to try sharing an actual Chrome app on the screen here, and it's not going to work, but yeah, I'm going to try.
Oh my gosh. So excited.
I know, brace yourself. This is
I'm
gonna
ready.
be fun. All right, can you see it?
I can see Wunderlist.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
the app I'm using. But you'll notice there's no oh my god, this is horrific. There's no tabs or anything. It looks like a separate program. I mean, it really looks like it's running in its own separate box. It really is much more of an app. These apps also have an easier ability to integrate with SkyDrive. These desktop apps allow for notifications, pop-up notifications in the notification center. These can interact with USB, Bluetooth, and other connected devices, including digital cameras. They update automatically. They sync your apps to any desktop device. They take advantage of Chrome Sandbox security, as well as auto-update. And like I said, there is the Chrome App Launcher for Windows. That is a separate program. You can put it right in your taskbar and launch apps automatically from there. So what do we think? Well, first of all, how's this work on have you guys seen this or used this?
A bunch of programs have done this for a long time. A bunch of programmers have written desktop apps just by embedding like Safari, which I think you can do on OS X pretty easily in like a minimal frame.
There's the fluid thing that basically what it does is make like an app that's just like a Safari, a wrapper around like a web view, and it displays a website.
Yeah, it's cool though that you can then, I guess SkyDrive has interesting, integration points for native, quote unquote, native applications.
Yeah.
John?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, Dan.
Well, I would imagine it's more than
No, don't take it personally. I'm sorry. I was just reading that, and this was important, that Chrome apps are available currently for Windows and Chromebook, not currently for Mac or Linux.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that I would assume it's more that, like, Chrome obviously has access to this, and they've implemented some of the APIs to bridge the gap between the host OS and the actual web page. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's bringing, whether it be Mac or Windows, closer to Chrome OS. Because really, this is essentially what Chrome OS is it's this sort of all web. It looks like an app, but it's really running on the web.
Yeah.
I mean, which is awesome because like the web's kind of cool.
Just kind of.
We like it.
Freaking great, man.
We're fans.
No, I'm like a huge fan of this though, because like I love writing stuff for the web, and like I want to write apps too. So I'm all for stuff that lets me do that. Be it like this, like Chrome OS. That's really cool that you can do stuff like that from your website. That's awesome. Or like Firefox OS for mobile phones is the same idea. And they expose like actual device stuff to websites and web-based apps, and you can do some pretty sweet stuff that has been off limits for us web folk. So it's pretty exciting, in my opinion. Quite thrilled.
I think this solves most of the problems with current desktop apps. If you're with Chrome browser is already a hugely popular browser and on millions and millions of computers, for starters. B, auto-updating. C, almost no issue installing. It's one-click install, and you're barely installing anything.
Right.
And it doesn't look like a web browser. It looks like a regular program, but it's running in the web. So I just think that's really kind of a cool and interesting direction. And there aren't a ton of apps currently available that take advantage of this, but obviously this is new, so we'll have to see what happens.
Righto. Oh, it's also cool. Well, I guess it's not on Mac yet, but like that Fluid thing uses like a super old version of Safari or something, and so you always get like when you try and go to Google Docs, it's like we don't support this version of Safari anymore. Are you sure you still want to do it? And it like mostly works, but sometimes it doesn't.
When do you run into that?
What?
When do you run into going to Google Docs in that Fluid thing?
Because I wanted to have Google Docs as an app,
Oh, I gotcha.
and I couldn't. Well, I could. It just didn't really work that well.
I will say that the blog on Google, the Google official blog says it is not on Mac, but I am on Mac, and I opened Wunderlist, and it looks freaking gorgeous.
Hmm.
Cool.
It looks like a native app.
I mean, is it still in the browser though?
It's still in the browser. As far as I opened it from my Chrome app tray.
Right, but yeah. So it's just not in that separate window thing.
No, it's in the separate window thing. It looks like a separate app.
Oh.
I can't share my Mac screen with you guys, but it looks really good. It looks better than it does on Windows.
I'm gonna try it.
They must have done a lot of optimization because it looks really good. So,
Are you on whatever, stable Chrome or like the dev channel or the Canary channel or whatever?
That's a good question. I actually don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. But hopefully, I'm sure it's coming to Mac very soon, and they're cool. We'll move on to the other update that is in the beta mode of Chrome, and that would be Windows 8 Metro mode. When we talked about Windows 8, we said apps really need to take advantage of this touch platform, and I said using Chrome on a touch screen is really, really painful. It's so painful. And I was really bummed when Firefox announced that their Windows 8, it's not going to be a Metro app, but it's going to be touch-styled, was pushed back to 2014, which really bummed me out. But the good news is, in the dev channel release, the latest for Chrome OS, there is a Metro style mode. Now, essentially, it's not a Metro app you download from the Windows Store, but it is designed in the sort of Metro design language. And the idea is that it kind of looks like Chrome OS. So in there is a shelf down the bottom with buttons for your apps. This is where the apps come in. And you just one tap, and it launches the apps. You can create multiple Windows displays. You're almost running Chrome OS inside of a Windows 8 environment. It's really strange. And I recommend going. I'm on The Verge, but the story was kind of everywhere. But you can have multiple windows open in this, and of course run your apps in them. But the idea is that Chrome apps are then going to be able to run in this touch environment, in a way circumventing the Windows Store.
Interesting.
Which everyone seems to be wanting to do these days.
Yeah.
Why?
I guess the first argument I would think of would be build once, use everywhere. Instead of building 18 different apps, when you can build one web app.
Yeah.
For mobile, it's a different environment, but is there really that big of an advantage to creating a Metro app? I think there is. I don't think these companies think there is, or at least not yet. And again, it comes down to control. Obviously Chrome OS adoption it's been good, but it hasn't been gangbusters, which is a fun word to say. And
say it again.
Gangbusters. Who are you gonna call? And so so this might be a great way to at least introduce the Chrome OS concept to people, but to get more apps built, because I'm assuming these apps work just the same on Chrome OS. So it doesn't surprise me that companies are really slow to get onto Metro, but I guess some change is better than none at all. I'm not on the dev channel, so I haven't actually played with it. But if it makes it better and easier to use, and these apps look very touch friendly, which I like. The browser still remains not particularly, small touch targets and the like. But if these apps are nice and touch friendly, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Do we imagine that they will be?
From what I've seen, again, there aren't a ton of these Chrome apps available. But and I'm going to look here at all the ones that are.
It seems like a lot of them are just links to websites, like the Google Drive app. I was just looking at it, and it doesn't look any different than the website.
That's true, and that comes.
That's a lot of Chrome apps. It's just like it's essentially a bookmark to the website, which.
But isn't it supposed to get you offline capabilities? Wasn't that one of the main points that you would do this?
No. It enables offline capabilities, but whoever's building this shit has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like for freezies.
So does the Google Drive app get you offline?
It does
I
now.
imagine
Yeah,
it does a little better than it used to.
Cool.
Yeah, I've used that.
Yeah, but I mean it's a matter of re-architecting your web app to not assume a network connection, right?
Your web app should not assume a network connection, anyways. But
well, I mean if you have a regular plain vanilla HTTP request to request website, it's not gonna work offline.
That's true.
One page will work offline. But
I was making fun of the fact that the network always goes down.
Oh yeah.
The network.
All right. Well, so keep an eye on Chrome. We'll have to wait and see when that hits the stable release channel. With that, I want to quickly talk through our last story because we're running a little long and this story is in no way exciting or interesting, but it should be noted that there have been more Nexus 5 leaks. That's kind of the next really phone people are getting excited about. Now that most of the phone announcements, at least for Christmas, have been made, this is the Nexus 5 from LG, the next in the Nexus line, and a giant 281-page draft manual detailing every feature about the phone was leaked, so there you go, no more surprises.
Who leaks this stuff? That's not even exciting. I could see myself leaking some pictures just to be oh, look what I've got. A manual? Come on.
An entire 281-page draft, yeah. It's a 5-inch display, Snapdragon 800 processor, 2 gigs of RAM, inductive charging, NFC, 8-megapixel camera with optical image stabilization.
Does that mean it doesn't have a plug?
No, I think you
have to have a plug.
I think you can plug it in, but
you don't have to.
That's right. That's built right in. Let's see, 8-megapixel camera, 1.3 megapixel on the front, and that's really it. It's a phone, and you can make calls on it, and it will be running Android KitKat.
Nice.
And with that, we will move on to our picks this week. I am going to jump in and go first, only because nobody likes warm beer.
That's true. Really true.
So, but before my beer gets all kinds of warm, I actually went on the hunt today because I realized. Well, let me tell you how this whole thing started. So my dad a couple weeks ago went to Virginia on Virginia Beach for a week on vacation, and when he came back, he brought me 3 bottles of beer brewed at Colonial Williamsburg, and it's pretty good. It's craft brewed, and I actually really like it. Tonight I'm drinking the Old Stitch Brown Ale. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, I drink so many kinds of interesting beer, and I'm always trying new beer. I want an app that tracks the beer I drink, gives me recommendations, allows me to rate and see ratings. Just sort of they do this for restaurants. They do it for all kinds of things. I want an app for beer. Now, I will say I've used Untappd before, which is pretty popular, but what I didn't like was it was too social. I don't care if other people know what beer I drink. I want to know what beer I drink. I don't need the
Mhm.
social stuff, so I wanted an app that that's too much. So I was looking for a secondary app that works well, and I found one. It's called Beer Buddy. It is available for like all our apps, iOS, naturally. Um, it is not free. It's $2.99, which I know is a little expensive, but I'm really excited. So let me give you on the beer cam here. So this is the app. This is Beer Buddy. On the front page here is a recommendation. But what's good is there's search and there's barcode scanning. This is the only app I could find that had barcode scanning built in. Make it fast and easy. I already tried the barcode on this beer, but it's a little too obscure. So I'm going to do a search by name and then top beers as well if you're looking for those. But I'll search by name here, and we'll go. This is Old Stitch. Now, this is actually based off of the ratebeer.com. So this beer is not in the system, which is not helpful. But this is based off of the ratebeer.com database.
Way to go.
So I'm going to actually do a search for Saranac, which I had a wonderful sampler of and I enjoy very much. You can click on a beer, and it will pull up the page for it. It gives you a picture, it gives you an overall rating, a little description, and what you can do is you can click and read reviews from ratebeer.com. You can save it to your collection of my beers, you can share it on social, and you can actually rate it on a series of aroma, appearance, taste, palate, what it counts to you. You can add comments, give it a score, and hit save, and it will actually add it to the list of beers you have. This is a really great way to remember what you liked about it, what you didn't like. They will all come up here. You can also add beers that you want to try. So if you go to a place and you see really cool beer on tap, you can actually add beers you want to try as well as those you have tried. And I'll show you, for example, they have pictures, and I want to see reviews. And it also has reviews from other users of ratebeer.com. So this is a really full-featured app for the beer enthusiast. It's a great way to collect what beers you like, what beers you don't like, especially as you're trying new beers, as I enjoy doing. It is $2.99, and it is available for iOS, and that is Beer Buddy. That is my pick this week. Go have a beer.
Okay.
Solid advice.
There you go. Dan knows what's up. All right. Let's just go down the line here. And Colby, me llamo Sean. That's all I know in another language. But maybe you'll teach me some more.
No, I won't. You can use the app though. So my pick this week has been around for like a long time. I think the first time I heard about it was last year at some point or another. But it's called Duolingo, and it's like basically for learning another language, right? Online, and they have a website, and what prompted me to choose this as my pick this week is that they have a new version of their iPad app, which is like awesome, just awesome. And I had never used it before, but I just downloaded it because I saw this online, and I tried it yesterday, and I was really impressed. I took a few years of French when I was in high school, and I hated it, and I didn't learn anything. I did learn some stuff, but I didn't enjoy it. It felt bad. But the way the app works is just really cool. It's like there's quite a variety of different questions, including you speaking to the app, and it records you and then figures out if you said it right, and it is pretty darn accurate. It's really cool. And it's completely free, which is especially awesome. So you should give it a try and learn a new language. I think they support, I know they do have Spanish, French, Portuguese, German, Italian. There's more. Oh, I guess that's it. Yeah, so they have those 5 languages right now. But check it out. I'll keep you guys posted in the coming weeks and see if I'm actually using it still.
Definitely, we'll have you do the show. What language are you doing?
I was doing Spanish.
Spanish? All right, we'll have you do the show in Spanish.
All right. I'm sure that'll really keep our listeners engaged.
We have a big following in Mexico, Colby.
That's true.
So you're going right for our target. So
so see, this you guys have to do it too, and then we can just do everything in Spanish.
That's a tough challenge. I actually just downloaded. I know this was many weeks ago, but the 7-minute workout. I don't remember which of you recommended that. Colby, was that?
That was me.
No, Colby. But I use it also, though. It's really great.
I just downloaded it, and I'm starting to use it. So that's my other challenge. So I'm very challenged.
We're all being challenged together.
That's Duolingo, Duolingo.com. All right, Dan, your pick, I don't know if I can pronounce.
Cryptonomicon, I think.
So, yeah, tell us about this.
It's a book. It's a novel. It's fictional, but we don't know that it didn't happen. Basically, the premise is it's kind of a 2-part story. So there's 2 simultaneous timelines, one in the late 90s, one in World War II. And the late 90s one, I haven't finished it. I'm less enthused about it, but the World War II one is really interesting, and it describes the process by which the United States and Great Britain broke the Enigma machine, and describes in detail the math that went into doing it. For example, basically the Enigma machine was a series of wheels, and every letter that you were encrypting got a different permutation of the wheel, and the wheels turned at different rates, so it meant that you would only get the same kind of encryption for a letter every 800,000 letters, and they made sure that no message was more than 800,000 letters long, so that's why they thought it was unbreakable. Then it turns out if you aggregated all these messages over time, you could spot the 800,000th thing and then figure out how it was crazy how they did it with no computers. In fact, this led to the invention of computers. But Alan Turing is a character. It's really interesting. There's, of course, the crack team of commandos they send in to make sure that no one figures out that they have broken the code. One of the interesting things they do is they can't tip Germany off to the fact that they've broken the code, because then they'll add a 5th wheel, and then they'll be, maybe totally screwed, because the combinatorics are insane. So they know that something's about to happen, but they can't take action, because by taking action, they'll tip Germany off to the fact that they know. So it's a thriller. It's really good. You learn a lot about math and computers and history, and the future, quote unquote, now past timeline is also pretty interesting. But it hasn't spent so much time on that yet. The future people are descendants of the World War II people, which is kind of interesting.
Is it historical fiction? Or?
I guess you could say that.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess so. It doesn't feel like any sort of historical fiction that I have ever read before.
Okay. I guess is it nonfiction? Maybe that's a better question.
We don't know that. It's based in fact, so where the story takes place at this mansion in England is where all the code breaking took place, and all the things I talk about actually happened. The conversation between, I don't think the main character existed, but the conversation between him and Alan Turing probably, no record of.
So it is. Yeah, it's.
But Alan Turing did actually know his counterpart in Germany, who created the Enigma machine. So they were old college buddies, basically. They both, spent their time at Oxford, I think. So it's really interesting. Cool.
This book has been recommended to me by so many people I can't even tell you. So here we go. Buy now with one click.
Nice.
I am committing, and I will probably not next week, but soon I will come back and give.
Yeah, it
I'm
reads really
excited.
well. It's a lot of fun. It's good, and it's not just geeks who like this. This was a pretty well acclaimed book at the
Oh,
time.
absolutely. I've heard a ton of people mention this as a must-read, so I'm excited.
For the record, Dan Miller has never led me astray when it comes to books.
Books, movies, and restaurants are my 3 areas of expertise.
Those are
second
pretty
that.
good areas of expertise.
Well
You should
done.
have a blog and call it Books, Movies, and Restaurants.
Yeah,
A great evening right there.
it needs to be a snappier title, but that's a good idea.
We'll work on that for next week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that just about wraps us up for this fantastic episode of Don't Panic. I had a lot of fun. I hope you all did too. I want to thank, of course, as always, Dan Miller and Colby Rabideau. Well done, gentlemen. Well done. There
Thanks,
we go.
Sean.
Yes. Cheers.
I'm glad you're proud of me.
Colby.
I'm gonna get beer next time.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. No. On that note, I want to remind everyone out there, thank you for those of you who are listening live. We've had a few live listeners and people in our chat room as well. Garrett in the chat room, thanks for hanging out with us.
You're awesome.
Great.
Join us back here every single Monday night, unless we tell you otherwise, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. And if you want to be reminded, it's easy. Just hook up with us on Facebook, facebook.com/don'tpanicshow, and get the recorded video and audio versions after the fact, don'tpanic.io, and subscribe to us on iTunes. It'll just go automatically to your device. You wake up, best part, you wake up in the morning, Don't Panic is there for you. So I highly recommend doing it that way, getting it automatically. And with that, I will send it off the same way we do every week by reminding all of you fantastic listeners and viewers to take a deep breath, relax, and don't panic. We'll see you next Monday, but until then, good night.